This is John Groves coming to you from my home studio. For today's Bible talk, I want to continue to explore the subject of war. We'll be looking more specifically at some of Jesus' statements and actions. I posed the question whether Jesus could be regarded as a pacifist. We will have to see how far we get as we delve into the subject. A good starting point for us is one of Jesus's parables, which is not often discussed from church pulpits. This is the parable of the warring king, related in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, verses 31 through 32. It reads, "What king, going out to wage war against another king, will not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000. If he cannot, then while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for the terms of peace." The hypothetical situation Jesus lays out seems very unlikely, and yet the story betrays a semblance of common sense. It might be better to settle even on somewhat unfavorable terms than wage a losing war. Of course, there would be some that, acting on principle, might believe if the cause they are fighting for is worthy, then they might or ought to simply fight to the bitter end. To be sure, there are scholars who dispute the authenticity of this account, in part since it does not fully reflect Jesus's moral authority about how we ought to live life in service to others. This parable is often grouped with the parable of the tower builder, which immediately precedes it in our narrative text. The tower builder in the parable is unable to finish a building project because he has failed to estimate the costs as against his resources. His unfinished project then becomes the subject of ridicule. For me, these two accounts display Jesus's practical outlook. I will add parenthetically that the subject of war is not included in Charles Fillmore's Revealing Word or Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. Perhaps the adage of not starting something you cannot finish is all that these parables are meant to convey. In the end, though, the warring king parable does not provide us with Jesus's views on the subject of war. At another extreme, we have Jesus's sayings about wars and rumors of wars in a passage referred to as the little apocalypse. It is found in Matthew chapter 24. In his discussions with his disciples over the end of the age and his coming out as a Messiah, he notes there will be many who claim to be Messiah, and many will be led astray. He then relates that they should not be alarmed with reports of wars and rumors of wars. Jesus states categorically that these events must come to pass as the birth pangs of an age not yet come. As part of this narration, Jesus mentions that nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Again, many scholars regard this passage as very questionable, and only certain Christian denominations are likely to spend much time discussing whether these various signs are now coming to pass or not. Perhaps we can simply observe that Jesus, as portrayed in this passage, is adhering to a cataclysmic worldview of universal warfare, where the destruction will be very widespread, leaving few survivors. Since he appears to accept these developments as unavoidable without expressing an opinion on their merits, it is hard to evaluate from them what Jesus believes about the character of warfare and its place in world events. I now would like to interrupt our discussion. We will return to it during our next Bible Talk. Thank you.